Lincoln declares, "A house divided shall not stand." We can't have a nation that's half slave and half free.
In a dim Kentucky cabin on a winter day in 1809, a baby boy took his first breath, an unlikely beginning for a future American president. That child, Abraham Lincoln, would rise from frontier poverty to lead the United States through its darkest hour of civil war. His life story is an epic journey of hardship, resilience, and leadership on an unprecedented scale. This video follows Lincoln's odyssey from a one-room log cabin to the White House and beyond. Join us as we explore his extraordinary journey from humble beginnings to an unforgettable legacy. Abraham Lincoln's journey began on the American frontier. Born in 1809 in rural Kentucky, he grew up in a one-room log cabin where comfort was scarce and every day brought hard work. With less than a year of formal schooling, young Abraham educated himself by the flickering light of the fireplace, devouring any books he could get his hands on. He lost his mother at age 9, a heartbreaking blow that toughened him and instilled in him empathy for others facing hardship. Life on the frontier was harsh, but it forged in Lincoln a fierce determination and a belief in self-resilience. In his early 20s, Lincoln struck out on his own in Illinois, a gangly young man of towering height, known for both physical strength and gentle good humor. He took on odd jobs in the village of New Salem, splitting logs for fences, earning the nickname Rail Splitter, and clerking in a general store. It was here that his integrity became local legend. One evening, realizing that a customer had been overcharged by a few cents, Lincoln closed up and walked several miles to return the money, a simple act that earned him the nickname Honest Abe. Such stories, along with his friendly storytelling and willingness to help neighbors, made Lincoln popular and respected. He was a man of the people, humble, hardworking, and guided by a strong moral compass. Lincoln's ambitions reached beyond manual labor. Fascinated by law and government, he taught himself law by reading thick law books late into the night. In 1837, at age 28, he passed the bar exam and became a lawyer. The dirt-poor farm boy had transformed into a successful attorney in Springfield, Illinois, known for his plain-spoken wisdom, quick wit, and unwavering honesty. During this period, Lincoln also found love, and in 1842 he married Mary Todd, a spirited and educated woman who believed in his potential. By the time they started a family, Lincoln's public career was gaining momentum. He entered politics in his 20s and won a seat in the Illinois state legislature in 1834, where he earned a reputation for integrity and a gift for connecting with ordinary people. In 1846, Lincoln was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives for a single term. After that brief service in Congress, he returned to Illinois and focused on his law practice. But the growing national turmoil over slavery's expansion soon pulled him back into public life. In the 1850s, Lincoln was alarmed by efforts to spread slavery into new Western territories. He joined the newly formed Republican Party, which opposed the expansion of slavery, and he spoke out powerfully against what he saw as a moral and political wrong. In 1858, Lincoln's eloquence vaulted him into the national spotlight. He challenged Stephen A. Douglas for a U.S. Senate seat, and their series of public debates became famous. Lincoln argued that the nation could not endure half slave and half free, insisting that slavery's spread must be halted for America to survive as one union. He lost that Senate race, but the debates made Lincoln a national figure. 2 years later, in 1860, the Republican Party nominated Lincoln for president, and he won the national election. However, his victory alarmed the South. Even before Lincoln took office, several Southern states seceded from the Union rather than accept his presidency. The stage was set for the greatest crisis in American history, and Lincoln would soon face the ultimate test of leadership. Abraham Lincoln assumed the presidency in March of 1861, with the nation on the brink of collapse. Within weeks, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter, igniting the Civil War. The Union suffered early defeats as Lincoln struggled to find generals who could counter the Confederacy's forces. Yet night after night, he pored over battle reports and urged perseverance. The war would ultimately claim hundreds of thousands of lives, a toll that weighed on him deeply, but Lincoln never wavered in his resolve to preserve the Union. As the war dragged on to its second year, Lincoln grew not only as a wartime leader, but as a moral leader. After a crucial Union victory at Antietam in late 1862, Lincoln made a bold decision that redefined the war's purpose. On January 1, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that enslaved people in the Confederate States would be forever free. This momentous act turned the conflict into a fight not just to save the Union, but also to end slavery. In July of 1863, a Union victory at Gettysburg turned the tide of the war. 4 months later, President Lincoln traveled to Gettysburg to dedicate a cemetery for the fallen. There, he delivered the Gettysburg Address, a brief but powerful speech that honored the sacrifice of the soldiers and reasserted the nation's founding ideals. He spoke of a new birth of freedom and resolved that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, would not perish. Lincoln's words gave hope that the Union's ideals would endure even in the darkest times. Despite the turmoil around him, Lincoln never lost his humanity or his sense of compassion. In early 1862, Lincoln's beloved young son Willie died of fever in the White House. Though heartbroken, Lincoln continued to show compassion amid the conflict. He visited wounded soldiers in hospitals to offer comfort and was known to grant mercy to those facing harsh punishments, understanding the awful strain the war placed on ordinary people. Such kindness earned him the lasting affection of his troops. By 1864, after years of bloodshed, the tide of war finally began to turn decisively in the Union's favor. In late 1864, Lincoln was re-elected president by a wide margin, a testament to the people's faith in his leadership and their desire to see the war through to victory. And victory was indeed coming. In March of 1865, with the Civil War nearly over, Lincoln delivered his second inaugural address. Instead of triumph, he spoke of healing, urging charity and forgiveness. He famously said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds." Lincoln's gentle plea set the tone of how he intended to reunite the country, not with revenge, but with reconciliation. The Civil War ended in early April of 1865, with the Union prevailing at long last. The weary nation breathed a sigh of relief, and Lincoln looked forward to reuniting the country. But the joy was short-lived. On the night of April 14, 1865, President Lincoln went to Ford's Theater in Washington to enjoy a well-earned evening of relaxation. During the play, a Confederate sympathizer named John Wilkes Booth stealthily entered the presidential box and shot Lincoln in the head at point-blank range. The mortally wounded president was carried across the street to a boarding house, where hours later, in the early morning of April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln died. The man who had saved the Union had been assassinated at the very moment of his triumph. The news of Lincoln's death stunned America, and a wave of grief swept the country. As Lincoln's funeral train made its slow journey back to his home in Springfield, Illinois, millions of Americans lined the railroad tracks in silent mourning. Even many who had once criticized him now realized the depth of the nation's loss. In death, Lincoln became a martyr of liberty and union. In the 10 years after, Abraham Lincoln's legacy only grew. He was hailed as the savior of the Union and as the great emancipator who helped end slavery in America. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution, passed shortly after his death, permanently abolished slavery in the United States, ensuring that Lincoln's act of emancipation would never be undone. Later generations came to see Lincoln as the embodiment of the American dream, proof that a person of humble beginnings could rise to greatness through honesty and determination. To this day, he remains an enduring inspiration. His words are carved in stone at the Lincoln Memorial. His face gazes from Mount Rushmore, and his ideals of unity and freedom continue to guide the nation to this day.